Ladies and gentlemen, if you can see my face and hear my voice, you know that we are back, but we're really back. Even Kofi's back. We took last week off as a full show because of the Easter holiday. Everybody had plans and stuff on Easter Sunday that bled into Monday, but we are more than happy to be back with the worst 120 minutes in all of sports. That's right. It is time for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. As always, I am Mike, and I'm joined by my faithful friend and partner in all things podcasting, producer Stead. How goes it, my friend?
It is going as well as it has been for Newcastle in 2022, which is quite phenomenal. It's on the up. It is on the up. Things are on the up. So all I can say is I woke up this morning, went to work, had a good day, made a good dinner. My kids are upstairs and I'm downstairs. So things are going well right now.
What did you make for dinner?
I actually made fried rice out of leftovers. My fried rice is actually very good. Very good.
I did tonight. I did steak, shrimp scampi, spinach and bacon polenta, and green beans.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Okay, let me not act like I did it all by myself. Home Chef is your friend. And they helped me out with the recipe and a lot of the ingredients.
Got it. Okay.
But there was still a lot of work that I needed to do.
I've done those kits, man. Absolutely. They say setup is 20 minutes and 50 minutes total of prep time. 50 minutes later, I haven't even started cooking yet. I'm like, dude, I don't know who you're talking to. 50 minutes of prep time. This is ridiculous. This is taking me forever.
It was a little bit of time. Oh, and we had a mushroom bordelaise sauce on our steak. It was quite good. It did take a little bit of time. It did take a little bit of time to prep. The one that was different about this, unlike some other ones, like everything was going at the same time. Mm-hmm. So when they were like 30 minutes to cook, they weren't lying. It was like 20, 30 minutes to cook all of that stuff. Yeah. But I had 5 burners going all at the same
time. Yeah, we had we tried like 3 or 4 of them. And one of them we had to stop using because we actually got onions and the onions were bad. Do you know how long it takes onions to go bad? I mean, that had been sitting in your warehouse for 2 years.
We had a situation where we ordered a salmon dish and they sent the salmon, but none of the stuff to go with it.
Yeah. That happened before too.
Yeah, so I'm not too mad. Like I like what I'm watching. I like it. It gives me good ideas.
Yeah, it does. I've actually saved. I saved almost all the old recipe cards. I saved them. Yeah.
We have a whole entire stack of them, and I appreciated them for this one.
We used Blue Apron the most. I think that was the one we used. That was a good one.
Yeah, we like Home Chef, and
yeah, I haven't tried Home Chef.
Home Chef's pretty good. Yeah, and Hello Fresh is the other one that
I liked. Hello Fresh. We used that one too. I like that one.
We alternate in between the two.
Yeah. Well, with as much as my son has been eating lately, those meal packs don't work anymore.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, it works for us because right now we're 2.
Yep, but it was just the 2 of us. That was great. No problem. But yeah, since we got
since you have a growing vacuum. Boy in it, you got the vacuum and the infant.
Yeah, man.
I get how it is. Yes, look, there's Bayern Rob.
Uh-oh. He just snuck in early. He's like, I'm coming into this. Let's do
this. Because he heard food and he was all about it.
Check your mic, Rob. Yeah. I think you're on mute. There you go.
No, there you go. No, I heard the food. I was getting hungry. No, but I accidentally turned on the camera. But here I am. I turned on the camera by accident.
Well, we are always happy to see you, Rob. Absolutely. I know that you'll be hanging out with us throughout the night intermittently, playing Stat Boy like you like to. Instead, I went up to Baltimore this weekend and hung out with Rob and his lovely wife, Tracy.
Oh, very cool.
No, wrong name.
Tiffany.
There you go.
Sorry. You know what? The funny thing is, I knew it was one of my cousin's names. I have a cousin Tracy and I have a cousin Tiffany. Tiffany, I hung out with him and his lovely wife Tiffany at the Bayern bar in Baltimore. You and I need to make a pilgrimage up here.
Oh yeah.
Because
no. My life is about to get way more manageable. So that is coming. That is coming.
So not only is it a good beer garden in the middle of Baltimore, and not only was the turnout very good, and the Bayern fans were really great to hang out with, loved them to death. Big shouts out to the Bayern Supporters Club of Baltimore. Y'all are awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The crowning achievement of the day, and the reason why I missed the third goal, instead, there was a pig. There's a pig in the bar.
There was a pig in the bar. I had no idea why they
put on a sandwich made into schnitzel or something.
No, this was a rather large pig. I have a picture with the pig. It was alive. Right. Cam just asked alive or cooked.
Yep.
No, there was plenty of cooked pig on the menu. And by the way, they serve full liters. Yeah.
I'll pay for that Uber ride.
But there was a pig. There was a pig in the bar. And I have a picture with the pig. Because there was a pig in the bar.
You gotta send it to G so you can put it on Facebook.
Yes, I will send a picture of the pig in the bar. Because there was a pig.
And it was walking around very freely.
Yes, it was hanging out. It was a nice pig. I like the pig.
They put a blanket for it, so the pig could sit on it. But the pig did not always sit. The pig stood up and walked around the bar a little bit between, the German Oktoberfest tables.
Yep, that pig was straight chilling. Like that pig owned the place. Like, I think that pig was like Elon Musk. He just engineered a hostile takeover of the beer garden in Baltimore. The pig was awesome. Like, no disrespect to Bayern, Rob, and winning 10 championships is a hell of an accomplishment.
10 in a row.
10 in a row. And no disrespect for your crowd, but the coolest thing was the pig.
Well, it's because Dortmund didn't make it a game, but all right. That's why
the other thing that I got to throw out there was it was the North Atlantic Regional Conference for Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. So not only was there a pig in the bar, but there were AKAs outside of it.
I'm glad I avoided that.
My wife is an AKA.
And I'm her brother. I'm an alpha, and I stay away.
I'm just going to leave it at that. Right. But no, it was very interesting
sisters.
that Rob, we are totally going to set up a remote podcast from there for one of those Bayern games, because we need to record something up there. That is an awesome place, and Stead and I will totally be up there at some point next season.
So my favorite story about that place was it was World Cup 2018, and Germany would play Mexico that day, and it turned out to be Father's Day. So the manager of the bar goes, it's going to be Father's Day. There's not going to be many people out today, whatever. So we're just going to have like two bartenders and a chef, right? The place was packed to the brim an hour before the game. Mostly German fans. I was there, obviously, and a few Mexico fans straining around or whatever. And they're the only one that left very happy that day. But then the manager sees what's going on, and he's just calling his entire Rolodex of bartenders who can come, who can come. One bartender was celebrating Father's Day at a brunch like 3 blocks away. So she finished brunch and came over to bartend. It was chaotic. I waited like 45 minutes for a pretzel. Didn't care. I was watching the game. Fantastic atmosphere. Yeah. So for World Cup games, Euro games, and also Bayern games, we are Crossbar in Baltimore, and Federal Hill is a place to be. I will be sending an invoice for that ad. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I will. We'll be there. Before we get to our good friend Cam, talk a little bit about Scotland. Your story made me think of something. A couple of years ago during the Euros, I went up to Philly. Portugal was playing Northern Ireland or somebody like that. And it was on Father's Day. And I was watching the game, and there was one Portugal fan with his family, his two kids and his wife. And it was clear to me, and this is why this guy is my hero. His wife had asked him, what do you want to do for Father's Day? I want to go to the bar and I want to watch Portugal play with my kids. And that is exactly what I'm going to do.
Yep.
And so he found out where the game was going to be, and he decided this is where I'm going to be. And he and I talked, and we had a great time. And I was, so what did you, he said, this is my Father's Day. My Father's Day is I'm going to the pub. I'm going to have a couple of pints. The wife is driving. I've got my wife. I've got my kids. I've got my team. Life is good. I aspire to be him when I grow up.
I'm halfway there, baby.
yeah, yours just got to get a little bit older. His were like 10 and 8.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a couple of years on you.
Yeah. Once my boy, it's about 10 to 11. Yeah. You best believe he's going to come sit with me. Hopefully he's more interested by then and won't be trying to look at an iPad or something.
Hey, Stead, that's no excuse. I went to Russia for the World Cup and my kid was 2. Okay.
But did you take your kid?
Oh, hell no. Are you kidding me? That's not vacation.
All right.
Exactly.
This man brought his kid. All right. We got to. But amongst other things, while we're figuring out stories about Russia and Father's Day and spending stuff, we need to figure out a plan for how we're going to watch a game at 7:00 on Sunday, because it is the final Old Firm of the season. And the one that really could decide it all. Celtic have a 6-point lead. 7:00 on Sunday, they play Rangers at Celtic Park in the final Old Firm of the season. A win or a draw for Celtic basically does it for Rangers and seals up Celtics 3,967th championship.
Only 2 behind Rangers.
Yeah, which only leaves them 2 behind Rangers. But we're going to bring on our good friend Cam. Cam, what's the plan? Number one, first and foremost, what's the plan for Saturday? Where is this, or Sunday? Where is this going on, and how can we watch it?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, it's the last Old Firm, so it's going to be a really, really big game. Unfortunately, I'll be watching it from a fire station in Rockville. I have a new shift assignment, and of course, it starts this month when the last Old Firm is, and it starts at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard, which is the same time the game starts. I think this game is going to be on Paramount Plus, though, as well as, I have Celtic TV. Probably not too many people, unless they're dedicated fans, have it, but it is going to be on Paramount Plus, I believe.
All right. The last couple, we went through one 2 weeks ago before our the week before our vacation. Celtic lost in the Scottish Cup semifinals, which means Rangers have a free run at that. But this one's for the league. And Celtics 6 points up. Rangers still have some work to do in Europe. They're in the semifinals. For my money, it's really been a tale of 2 seasons in between these two, where Celtic have had the advantage domestically in the league, coming back, taking the league, but for that blip in the Scottish Cup semifinals, they've clearly been the dominant team domestically since January. Rangers have been on this run internationally. So a couple of questions. The first of which I'm going to ask is, who's going to reflect on this season and you can say one, either, or both, and say we came out better?
I think, the way it's looking now, I honestly think, without any bias involved, and I'll explain why, I think it's going to be Celtic. This season was touted from the beginning as a rebuild season. We basically overturned our whole first team, and we lost players like Scott Brown this season who have been stalwarts, who've really, been able to kind of steady the ship, steady Celtic. We brought in a lot of new players, new manager, new backroom staff. And I think, if we are able to win this next Old Firm, which, I am feeling good about, then I think we can look back on the season and say it's been very positive. I understand Europe was not as successful as, Rangers for us, but at the same time, this is a manager who's new to the continent. He's never coached in Europe. He's picked up the domestic game very well, and I think he's going to come back, or has come back, with some reflections on his, European style and how to match teams like that. So, I'd be remiss if I didn't give Rangers props from getting to the Europa semi-final. Good on them for that. That is something that, at the end of the day, does help the game in Scotland. As you guys know, I'm always talking about that, the general good of football in Scotland. So for that, good for them. But I think Celtic are going to come out saying they've had a better season.
Next question, and you kind of alluded to this. Where does this Old Firm go?
Yeah, so I think, after the last game, which was, so close, going to extra time, I'm hoping, and I said this last time, Rangers are traveling right before the game. They're going out to Germany to play Leipzig, and then they're coming back. They're without Roof, which is a pretty big blow for them. We lost, Giamakis is questionable for the game, but we saw Kyogo come back and score in the last game. So he's coming back into the team. Maeda, our Jota is still there. Abada, we've got plenty of options up front, and I think really a decider to this game, I think, is really a big part of it is going to be the bench. I think how Angie makes his substitutions in the second half of the game, who he puts in, I think is going to be a big part of this game.
Hopefully we'll get Rob back in a second so that we can talk a little bit about Rangers and Leipzig in this Europa League semi-final. There he is. So before I lose real quick, Rob, Rangers have Leipzig. Leipzig are going to be the prohibitive favorites, not only to win this tie, but to win the Europa League. Questions I like to ask. Rangers win if, Leipzig wins if, and who do you think goes home victorious?
I think Leipzig wins if I think Leipzig win comfortably if Okuku plays the way he's been playing all season. He's just been phenomenal for them all season, scoring, assisting, being dangerous with the ball. He's a total menace on the pitch, and it's gotten to the point where the Premier League is starting to sniff for him. Someone's gonna spend big money. Leipzig's gonna let him go because it rinse and reload again. But if Okuku is plays consistently like he has all season, this is they win comfortably. If Okuku plays an awful game, I think they still win. I think it'll be a little more tricky. I definitely think they'll win at home in Leipzig. Now, whether if they win at home in Leipzig, there's no reason for them to really exert themselves over at Rangers. So they'll go for like a 1-0 win, or they'll go for a 0-0 draw, and they're comfortable doing it. I think Rangers win if they score. If Rangers win, it is scored 2 goals at Leipzig. But it's really hard. It's really hard, mind you, for them. But if by miracle they catch a Leipzig, snapping somehow, taking it easy because it's the Europa League. They still have to. I mean, they're not going to win the Bundesliga, obviously, because that's been decided. But there is a chance they still could make it to second. And being second comes more money and all that jazz. So Leipzig still have to concentrate on that. If Leipzig get caught napping and Coco has a bad game, if Rangers could score 2, they have an excellent shot, a decent shot. Of winning this round, because playing over there in the Ibrox, we know how crazy it is over there, right? Cam knows especially. It gets loud. And Leipzig's loud too, but not like the Ibrox at all. And so, and when that crowd and whole field in Scotland, it takes a different atmosphere, and anything can happen there. So, but yeah, no, I think Rangers need to score 2 in Leipzig to even have a chance of making it out and making it to the final.
I think if Rangers can keep it within, I think they need to score Colt too, but if they are within a goal,
yeah,
going into Ibrox, if they're within a goal, I think it gets very, very nervy at Ibrox. I think Ibrox is worth 2 goals on a European night to Rangers.
I would agree. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
And Tedesco has not had, this experience in Champions League or even Europe in general.
But no real Rangers manager has.
We're not talking about from Leipzig, on the Leipzig side. Dominic Tedesco, when he went to Schalke, he did, I think he took him to the knockout round in Champions League. Maybe, and that was really about it. This Leipzig team has been to a Champions League semifinal. Some of them, not all of them, because they do rent. They do a lot of turnover here year after year. But they have a history here, a recent history, mind you. So they've been here before, and Rangers haven't in a long time. So yeah, I think that's when it could get a little bit dicey. The fact of the matter is Leipzig had the stars and Rangers don't, not the European stars that we know, right? Or the stars in the making like Leipzig do. So that's why, Mike, you're right. They keep it within a goal. Crazy things happen in Scotland.
I think it's got. I'm going to go out. I'm going to say I think it's going to be 3-1 Leipzig in Germany, and we'll talk next week before we get to the return leg. Rob, real quick, what do you think the outcome of this game on Thursday looks like?
Honestly, it wouldn't shock me if they scored 3-3 and they shut out Rangers. It really wouldn't shock me. They're so good. Leipzig, especially in ever since Tedesco have taken over, they've been the best Bundesliga team. Better than Bayern even. And really, their only blemish has been the loss to Bayern in the second half of the season. That's it. For the most part, and I know they lost this weekend to Union, even though they beat them in the German Cup. But still, like this side has been just amazing overall. They're firing on all cylinders, and everyone's healthy. That's when you get to April, if you had the whole squad healthy, the bench included, that bodes well for you playing multiple competitions. So, my prediction would be 3-0 Leipzig over Rangers.
Okay, so first of 2 questions. Cam, are you capable of giving us an honest prediction?
Yeah, I can give it from the perspective of how they've been defensively. They haven't been fantastic defensively, and I think from what I've heard from Bayern Rob here, I think I could see a 3-0, even a 4-0. I think he makes an excellent point about if Leipzig has such a good team and they have such a deep bench with no one really injured, and Rangers are coming in, as I mentioned, without roof, which is a pretty big knock to them. I could see. I'll go. We'll play. What's the game? Price is Right. I'll go above. I'll go 4-0.
4-0. All right. So, moving back to the Premiership, you said kind of that you think that Celtic are going to win the next Old Firm this weekend. How do you see that going?
I think again, Angie is he's got a good team around him now. We've got a lot more players out from injury. I think and Rob brings up a great point. We have CCV, who is, he's been just, even in that last Old Firm game, as a standout player, he was magnificent. He really, really was magnificent. I think we have a good chance after the last Old Firm. We did look sloppy. There were definitely times where I think I was yelling at the TV asking what they were doing. Some pretty blatant passes. I will say this is a very classic Scottish thing to do, but there is something to be asked about the refereeing in the last game on fouls given and fouls not given. But I think, I would see this game coming up being a 3-1 win for Celtic.
All right. So if Celtic win at the Old Firm, we can pretty much say title done and dusted. Clearly, it would mark Celtic as the dominant team in Scotland, once again, the dominant team of the 21st century. We'll all be happy. But that leaves us with business to do in the off-season, which I'm all right with starting this week, but hopefully we can continue it. The first would be, and I've seen this as Celtic deep in negotiations with Spurs for the permanent signing of Cameron Carter-Vickers. What I've got is a $6 million transfer fee rising possibly to 10 based on trophies and appearances. Are you hearing anything based on your nods? And he's nodding vigorously. I'm going to go with you've heard something similar.
I have, yeah. So what I've kind of seen on some of the, I'll call them, I hate to use the term gossip sites, but people that know people kind of in the know at Celtic in management, the one player that is deep in terms of talks for a contract is CCV right now. He appears to be the number one target, followed closely by Jota. However, Angie has been keeping his cards close to his chest. He usually does. He's been questioned a number of times about both of them. But he hasn't said anything, but it's kind of leaked out a little bit that CCV is in talks for a permanent signing. Now, the latest figure I've seen is 6.5 million. But as you mentioned, potentially with that buy-on clause that could rise. And for an EPL club, that's peanuts. That's nothing. For a team like Celtic, that's a big investment for a defender. However, I think with what we've seen from him this season, I'd be all in on that. I think he's played a massive, massive part to the success this season.
Rob, part of me is like, all right, maybe we can start the Celtic reclamation project for lost American defenders. Because I'm thinking Matt Miazga's out of contract this summer.
Are you saying that you want Celtic to be the Scottish version of Full America?
Yes, I'm all for it.
Yes, I'm down for it. They're the big Scottish culture in the U.S. Why not?
I'm 120% for it. So what I'm proposing is a 2-for-1 for Celtic. What we're going to negotiate right now is y'all going to pay the 6.5 rising for Cameron Carter-Vickers. And then we're also going to throw in Matt Miazga, who's coming off of a free. We think that he's good, but he's another reclamation project. He's a little bit, he's actually bigger and maybe possibly a little bit more athletic than Cameron Carter-Vickers. But after 150 games on loan for Chelsea, he needs a home. And he's on a free this summer, I would highly suggest. So what we want we're going to give you 2 Americans for the price of one, well, plus the other one's wages. So 1 transfer fee, 2 Americans.
Okay.
We'll split the difference. Ergo, where 6.5 was a lot to pay for a defender, 3.25 suddenly becomes more palatable. We're going to throw in Matt Miazga as a potential backup. And I think I like that deal.
You know, a really good financial deal is music to a Scotsman's ears. You know, that is, I mean,
I need you to get in touch with your people at Celtic and propose this deal for us, because us Americans, we're going to offer y'all Matt Miazga and Cameron Carter-Vickers. We may even throw in Steve Birnbaum for the price of lint in your pockets and give you 3 American defenders for the price of 1.
Now you're making my heart flutter here. We gotta, this deal is just growing here. It's growing.
But what we're going to do is we're going to send all of our reclamation projects over to Celtic and let you all sort them out, because for some strange reason, my experience has been Celtic has a good way of sorting out American reclamation projects. So yes, Rob, we will make Celtic new full America. Even though Fulham's coming up.
I'm looking at the American dollars coming in from
2 words. DeMarcus Beasley.
Yes.
Hey,
but Rangers. He played for Rangers.
He played for Rangers.
But my point is not necessarily the fact. No, hold on. You're missing my point. My point is that it's worked at another market in Scotland. Hey, he revitalized his career and had a great second showing as a right back and a left back at Rangers. So
Maurice Adu and Carlos Bocanegra.
And Maurice Adu, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've had him, especially in the defensive position. So you've had American players who play for, and they're not playing for, St. Mirren. They're playing for one of the, playing for a big club in Scotland. So
don't forget Tim Weah, by the way, too. Tim Weah was at Celtic at one point.
Yeah, I mean, I wish one of my great regrets is that Tim Weah was not able to stay at Celtic. I think that both Celtic fans and American fans would have been happier had he been able to stay at least another year.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, in a choice between Otis and Edouard, who did great things for Celtic, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I just believe that had Tim Weah been able to stay an extra year or 2 at Celtic, his career would be much better for it. All right, Cam, before we get too lost in the sauce, among other announcements that are important, VAR coming to Scotland. Therefore, you can be as pissed off on Mondays as the rest of us are.
Yeah, it's pretty big news out of Scotland. VAR has been discussed for the past few years, and finally there was a vote on it, and all the clubs from, all the leagues in Scotland voted on it. There was one team that said no. That was championship side Morton. They think it's going to have a negative effect on the game and the atmosphere of the game, which, as you mentioned, seems to be a common running theme in leagues that use VAR. So this is going to be coming into effect. Another weird twist here. Not at the beginning of next season, but halfway through the season, they're going to introduce VAR. So really interesting twist. And the theory is that it was done in Poland and Czechoslovakia. We want to make sure that our VAR is good to go so it can be done. So.
All right. So there are a couple of logistics related questions. VAR relies heavily on TV cameras. Outside of the major games that have been on, TV production amongst Scottish Premiership sides is iffy. How are they going to get this done? And you're saying they're proposing it on all the leagues. How are they going to get this down through all the leagues if you're relying on television cameras? And there's got to be sides that just don't have TV production.
Yeah. So from my understanding, and I still have to do research, this is very, very recent news, is that it's going to start in the Scottish Premier League, and then over the years trickled down. Just literally because of what you're saying, you know, the teams up top in that top league, they're much more prepared to deal with it. All those games are televised. You know, some of the stadiums are a little bit smaller, but the SPFL is putting some money aside for teams to utilize in order to update stadiums so they can accommodate you know, VAR abilities. But it's going to be a big change, especially for some of these smaller clubs at Ross County that have a 6,000 person stadium. You know, you need the facilities to conduct that VAR. As you say, you need the cameras, you need to pay the referees. So it is going to be an added cost to the game in Scotland, which is also affecting the fans' views on it. So, you know, I don't know. I just looking at the reaction that I've seen from other people that follow other leagues, VAR is just it's a scary thing, I think, that's coming to Scotland.
And you explained it slightly, but I got to go back and ask this: the wisdom of bringing it in halfway through the season. I mean, number one, that sounds uniquely Scottish. Like, yeah, we're going to make this big change midway through the season, which isn't midway through our season, but yeah, we're just going to bring it in January.
Yeah, it's really weird. Essentially, the reasoning that they gave is because we want to be fully confident that we set it up right. Now, there is a pretty large debate. A lot of people, football pundits in Scotland, are kind of questioning that. They believe that it can be done effectively with the teams that we have, the stadiums that we have currently before the end of the season starts in July. It's, you know, plenty of time to, it's being voted on, so the ball's already moving. You know, the Scottish Premier League, they alluded, as I mentioned, to Poland and Czechoslovakia having done that halfway through their seasons, and it was successful. So I can already see this playing out as, you know, any goals that were considered controversial in the first half of the season, and then the second half, it's kind of like, oh, well, we had VAR, you guys didn't, or, you know, things like that kind of situation. So we'll see.
All right. The last question before we get you out of here, which is probably more loaded than we anticipate for the last question. Give us an update on relegation and promotion as it goes in between the championship and the premiership in Scotland.
Yeah, so we have going down for sure Dundee. We have coming up Kilmarnock. From the championship, and then from League One into the championship, we've got Cove Rangers. But the big kind of element here, as you mentioned, is St. Johnstone is going to be playing Arbroath for a potential switch there. So, you know, the Arbroath dream is still alive here. And I'm all in for it, man. I am all in for this.
I have said if Arbroath get a Premier League spot, no disrespect to Celtic, I'm rooting so hard for Arbroath next year. I'm getting an Arbroath jersey. I'm totally all in on that.
Man, all right, my man. Arbroath jersey. I'm gonna get one if they move up for sure.
I have a question for Cam because so I know we all talked about the split. So there are two tables in essence. So does the winner of the relegation table, the second table, get anything or no?
Just whatever, you know, more financial money than being in the 8th place.
Okay, all right, got it. All right, and you know, so when I heard about the split, I initially thought that they reset the table. They just do it all over again, but no, the points stay the same. Got it.
Yeah, the 6th place team, the person who finishes last in the top half is still going to finish in 6th, whereas the person who finishes top of the lower division in 7th is still going to play 7th.
Got it.
Yeah. And even if 7th has more points than 6th, there's just no switch. Nothing.
No switch.
Yeah.
Got it. Understood. All right. Thank you.
All right, my man. Cam, good as always. We will definitely get you back next week to talk about the results of the Old Firm, because this could be the day that settles it all. All right, good to talk to you, my man. Good luck on Sunday, and we look forward to speaking to you next week.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great evening.
All right, Rob.
Yo.
10.
in a row.
But somehow this season feels kind of disappointing.
It is yeah. I mean, all right. So for those on the radio or listening on the podcast, we're talking about the good old Bayern München, the Deutsche Meisters, 10 in a row. So yeah, the board has always had the view that the league tells you the most accurate description of the quality of the team and the squad because it's through a longer period of time. They understand that winning the Champions League is insanely hard. A lot of things have to go right for you. A lot of things can go wrong, and there's really not much chance to make up for it. The Pokal is sort of similar, but that is a total disappointment. So for all of former manager Niko Kovac's, flaws, he came out with a double in his first season at Bayern. And also he started right before he took the Bayern job, he beat Bayern with Frankfurt in the German Cup final. So he had two cup titles in a row, and then he had a Bundesliga title with Bayern. And then he got fired like about 6 months later. So it's disappointment, yes, but it is still an achievement. It's really hard to be consistent. Especially the way Bayern make their money. There's not a rich oligarch. They're not a rich oil state throwing money at them, as a majority owner. So they have to hit a lot of right, and they have to hope that the other clubs misspend money or get things wrong. Lewandowski's been here for a while, so he's a big part of the 10 in a row. He wasn't there for the first two, I believe, 12-13 and 13-14. But it's difficult, and they had to, a team like Bayern, superstars go away and they had to replace them with new ones. Robin and Ribéry are gone, Schweinsteiger are gone, now comes in Kimmich, Goretzka, Sané, Coman, Gnabry, all those. But like the nucleus of the team has stayed the same. So Manuel Neuer and Thomas Muller are the only people left who were there in the first of the 10, and Thomas Muller had won 11. He won earlier in his career. It's a disappointing season, yes, but it's still a good season because we won the league, we got silverware, and that's important. So we look forward to the stadiums being full again, the money coming in from all the Uli Hoeneß sausages. And hopefully we can make some moves in the summer to really solidify the bench and not have another Villarreal situation.
So where does this 10 rack up? The 10 in a row, this 10th one. In the pantheon of Bayern achievements, this has been done with what, 4 or 5 different managers? Where does this rank in the pantheon of Bayern achievements?
Oh, it's in the lower half. It is mostly because you got the trouble years, right? That were amazing. You got the sheer dominance of the Pep era. When Pep was there the first 3 seasons, especially the first season, the title was won in March. I mean, that's how dominant this team was under Pep, and that was after they won everything with Jupp Heynckes. So this is a lot of happening. I think it's mostly because it's we won the title when we're out of every other competition. So now it's but before we used to win the title and then we still have something to look forward to. We had a German Cup, and we were still in the Champions League at that very point. So it's in the lower half. I mean, it's probably up there with the Carlo Ancelotti Bundesliga title. Maybe it's up there with the Hansi Flick one as well for the second Hansi Flick Bundesliga title. Because the same situation, we are knocked out of everything by that point. So, but this is we're getting to the point that we're going to see another transition. Thomas Muller's getting older, Manuel Neuer's getting older, Robert Lewandowski's getting older, and the English Premier League clubs are really flexing their muscle on buying the best German talent. We've seen Timo Werner go. We've seen Kai Havertz go. Florian Wirtz might go one day. Patrick Schick maybe. Nkunku from Leipzig. So Bayern really can't reload from within a league anymore unless they get them even younger. And then, even then, there's a chance they might not be as good as they think they would be. So because the market is just too hot for these young German talents, it's gonna get harder and harder to reload, and the clubs like Dortmund are gonna get much better at keeping their players, making good moves, and even like we saw with Nicolas Sula, maybe buying players from Bayern and making the splash that maybe Bayern can't afford at the moment. So this is hard, and you know what? Next season will be just as hard. If not harder, because the team Leipzig is going to be good again. They fluked out a little bit in the beginning, but they're going to get good and they'll be good, and they're just just the age factor. It's going to get harder.
Give us a real quick update on the comings and goings. We're at the business end of the season. We've talked a little bit about Leipzig. Leipzig are in there with a chance to win the Pokal and the Europa League. What are the comings and goings as far as relegation, and who's in the hunt to go up, down, and to win a trophy?
Oh man, so I use, for the most part, the top two are settled, right? Obviously, right? Now is Leverkusen is in a really pickle. Is in a pickle here because they're only 1 point up on Leipzig, and Leipzig is the hottest team in the Bundesliga in the second half of the season. But not too far behind Leipzig, who are in fourth. You got Freiburg, and Freiburg, even though they had every chance to throw it away this past round in the Bundesliga. I mean, they were down to Gladbach by like 3 goals, and then they came back to tie it at 3-3. So they scraped a point at home. But they're only 2 points away from Leipzig, and they're in the Europa League spot. So they have, if Leipzig kind of falter, or even if Leverkusen falters, there's a chance that Freiburg might make the Champions League, which would be amazing for them. Union Berlin is in Cologne are pretty much fighting for the Europa Conference. Hoffenheim is slowly dipped out of there. They're not that, they've had a couple bad runs. They should have beat Frankfurt this past weekend. They drew them 2-2. Chris Richards is out for the rest of the season, and he got hurt. I forget what specific injury it was, some leg injury. So now you're starting to see the picture a little bit clearer. So it's going to be Union and Cologne fighting for the last Europa Conference, the only Europa Conference spot. And then on the relegation side, Greuther Fürth is done. They're down there, right? And then Hertha Berlin just scraped the barrel somehow, and they beat Stuttgart. And Stuttgart's not a great team either, but they beat them, not tied them. And now they're out of the relegation zone. So in that last relegation playoff spot is going to be a constant battle. And then you move over to the second Bundesliga. It's chaos in the second Bundesliga. There's going to be a lot of shifting. So number 1, you got Bremen. You got number 2 in Schalke. Number 3 is Darmstadt. And number 4 is St. Pauli. And then St. Pauli and Schalke play in a couple weeks. That's going to be really key on who, if Schalke is going to win the second Bundesliga, or they're going to falter into the playoff and St. Pauli is going to leapfrog them a little bit.
No disrespect to Coach Matt and Coach G. I'm totally rooting for St. Pauli on this one.
I think most of us are. We need a St. Pauli atmosphere back in the Bundesliga, at least for the TV product, man.
Nah, I need the brown jerseys. I need the references to St. Pauli girls. Yeah, I need all that.
I need a skull and crossbones, a Jolly Roger, all that. Give me all that. So that's going to be a fantastic finish to the second Bundesliga. And then we have what my favorite tournament of them all, the DFB Pokal, the German Cup. The final set, we got Freiburg versus Leipzig. Intense battle there. Not only are they battling for spots in the Bundesliga, but they're in the final. And Freiburg, man, they've been such a good team this season. I really wish they get a trophy. It'd be fantastic for them to get a trophy. It'll be good for the country, for German football, for them to win it, because nobody who's not from Leipzig wants Leipzig to get a trophy in their trophy case. None of us do. We don't want that, because if that happens, it legitimizes everything they did to get where they are today. It legitimizes the fact that they slapped 50+1 in the face, their high membership costs entering the league, which was pretty much against the spirit of the 50+1 rule, and how they do business. Nobody likes how they did business to begin with. So if they win a trophy, then you know what? It's going to open up the floodgates for potentially another club to say, you know what, we want to do the Leipzig way. We want that, because that's how we get the money in. And then you're going to start to see the spirit of 50+1 slowly dissipate. So that's going to be a fun matchup. I think that matchup in a few weeks. So I can't wait for that. Now I believe so. Freiburg play Union coming up. I'm trying to figure out. Freiburg got tough competition because they're going to fight for playoff spot. So it's going to be a tough season for them. They're not used to playing so many competitions. This far into the season, they don't have as deep of a bench as Leipzig, as we talked about earlier. Versus Leipzig have a deep bench. So it's going to be a tough one, but they're going to be everyone's favorite. I can't wait. It's going to be a fun atmosphere. I really was hoping Union would be there, because Union could fill the Olympiastadion. But Union can only beat Leipzig in the Bundesliga. They cannot beat them in the Pokal semifinal, which is a tough break. But man, the German league is fun. It's intense. It's going to be chaotic. I know everyone wants to talk about Bayern as I do, but there's a lot more to the league than just a number one spot. There's 1,700 spots in the league. There's a lot of stories to be written here. A lot of fun stories like Freiburg and Dominic Tedesco's return to the Bundesliga, taking Leipzig all the way to the near top. So it's going to be fun for the next few weeks. I can't wait.
All right, my man. Well, we'll get back to you a little bit later in the show so we can talk a little bit about MLS. But I have left myself with exactly the amount of time that I wanted to do this. Instead, I've left myself with 90 seconds to talk about Arsenal and Man United. Did I not plan that well?
Yeah, you did. That's about all we need.
We suck. We know we do. We all won. Before we get to Larry and Man City, give me your thoughts on Arsenal, where they are in this game.
This past week could not have been more stereotypical Arsenal. I mean, this is a team that loses 3 straight to clubs and scores 1 goal. And these are clubs that Arsenal should have beaten. Had they at least gotten one of the I'll wait.
No, I'm going back and forth with Larry over New Jersey versus Brooklyn Nets.
I get it.
He's rooting for the New Jersey Nets. I'm fine with that. If you are a New York Nets or a New Jersey Nets fan, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. Brooklyn Nets.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation.
Go for it. We'll talk about that. No,
finish your talk. We'll talk.
We'll talk about that in a second, brother.
No, all I was saying is that it's just a very typical Arsenal thing to do. I don't remember the last time Arsenal beat Man U and Chelsea in the same week, nevertheless by more than one goal each time. So the only thing that's good about it is the fact that now Arsenal's back solidly in fourth place and they control their own destiny again. They're very lucky, is what I'm saying. They're very lucky. The fact that Spurs stubbed their toe, as you know, Spurs and Arsenal have done repeatedly over the past 10 years. It's very lucky for Arsenal. Am I going to cement them as fourth place? Not in the least bit, because they still have to go out and win games. Luckily, Spurs have a much tougher schedule, but you could have said that about Arsenal a week ago, and then they beat, two teams that they've notoriously struggled against in the past 5 or 6 years. So, I think if anything, it's still good we still got to remember Arsenal they're a very young team. And the fact that they're only solidly senior player Lacazette's now benched because he can't stay physically healthy. Apparently he's been sick. And now you have Eddie Nketiah, who's able to score a few goals for the team, which we've been sorely missing for the past couple of weeks. So, it's par for the course. Again, I think we're just going to wait and see what happens on Championship Sunday and see if we can actually get in there. Because if we can, great. I think that'll be, I know I never agree with this before. And Arsene Wenger would say winning fourth place is like getting a trophy. That drove me nuts when Arsenal was in their trophy drought, but I will accept that this year. Fourth place will be just as equivalent as winning a trophy this year for the squad.
I know that he likely won't get it, but seriously, Arteta has got to be high in the running.
He does.
In the straw poll for manager of the year for what he has taken or where he has taken Arsenal from. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing, we have been through it on the show in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
From the time that he got the job, through the stumbles of the first time, the lineup changes, the tactical changes, going from 4 at the back to 3 at the back, 4 at the back, 3 at the back. We're going to play a 4-5-1. Now we're going to play a 5-3-2. The one thing that I will say is lately, I think that he has settled on his best formation, his best team. I think he's become a little more assertive with the board and the powers that be about these are the guys that I'm going to play. Mm-hmm. This is what my team is going to do. I think he's found his voice, and I think Arsenal has benefited. That is why, from the early part of the season where we had questions till now, where we're talking about him as manager of the season, we've gone through that change.
Yeah, I think we need to give him his props too, primarily for the fact that when this team has taken a blow like they did, losing to, Southampton and Palace, to not imploding, because we've seen that happen far too often. Is you get a couple of bad losses and basically your season's over when you get to March and April. And so we've seen this happen a few times this year where it looks like the wheels are going to fall off the team and they're going to go to what everyone expected them to be, which is the 7th place, 8th place squad this year. And they bounce back. They bounce back every time. And they bounce back with players you weren't expecting. I think that's why you have to really give him his props as a manager and see that he is only growing. He's only going to get better. He's still not even 40 yet. I think he's 39. He's only going to get better. So, to all of my Arsenal friends on my Arsenal chat who, if they have 2 bad dribbles, are yelling for Arteta out, y'all need to shut up and stop the nonsense. Stop the nonsense. Arteta's probably the best manager we're going to have moving forward. And the last thing you want to do is have you ostracize him, move him out, and then he goes to City and wins 5 cups over at City. So let's keep him here as long as we can, because he is a very solid manager who's still building his club. And as London Sean said, we're still 1 or 2 transfer windows away from truly being a competitive team as far as winning trophies are concerned. And so we have if we've said that, we can't go changing our mind because you don't like the fact that he lost to Palace, with a team that's actually quite talented, with a manager who's also showing that he's also very good. I think they just kind of want Vieira to take over the squad, which like get over it. Get over your nostalgia. We've seen it doesn't always work. Look what happened with Frank Lampard. Let's stop all that crap and just stick with what's working and not blow it up too soon, or else you're going to regret it.
All right, I'm going to do Man United in about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We suck. We know we do. The lack of effort, the lack of initiative, this team gave up a long time ago. Chelsea Mike's going to come on and maybe talk about the slide that Chelsea's going to be in. They're going to play Man United on Thursday. I guarantee you we'll help them get out of that. The only thing that can help Man United is the end of the season. Eric Ten Hag's coming in. He is promising good things. I hope he gets to deliver on this, because right now, Man United are that thoroughbred that broke its leg on the backstretch. You just need to go out and shoot it. Put it out of its misery. Let's get out of this season, and hopefully we can get on to the next one and things will be better. Yeah, the less said about that, the better. And with that, I welcome in my good friend, Larry, the insurance guy.
New Jersey Larry.
Larry, New Jersey Larry, who's not really New Jersey Larry because he's actually from Pittsburgh.
Let me just say this, though. As a guy who loves Brooklyn, I love going to Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn is a great town to hang out in. I have yet to get on board with Brooklyn Nets. It's not right. There's the New Jersey Nets.
Hard.
I want the Jason Kidd New Jersey Nets squad from the 90s.
That's what it is. I got the Kidd.
That's the team.
All right, so
I feel you, Larry. I'm with you.
So Larry's come on in his New Jersey Nets number 5 Jason Kidd jersey. Somewhere back in my collection, I do believe I have a New Jersey Nets 15 Vince Carter jersey. I also may have a New York Nets Dr. J jersey. I say this to say I am not a Nets fan. The New Jersey Nets, the New York Nets, I'm fine with. The Brooklyn Nets are a completely different bird. It's like, to me, it's the difference in between being a Brooklyn Dodgers fan and a Los Angeles Dodgers fan. I love the Brooklyn Dodgers. Not going to be a LA Dodgers fan, right? And I have a lot of reasons to be. That's a completely different aside. The Celtics made the Celtics spanked the little Brooklyn Nets and Kyrie and
they did.
Yeah, and Ben
Simmons. They lost, but I am surprised they got swept.
Yeah, you can see the highlights of my name, not Ben Simmons, because I showed up for work today.
I kind of wanted them to win tonight. So obviously, I wanted the Nets to win, but I wanted them to win even more because I wanted to see what Ben's excuse would have been for the next game for him not to play.
He is not mentally and physically able.
He's a joke, is what he is. But that's neither here nor there.
That's neither here nor there.
But about your Arteta, who would have thought 3 or 4 months ago you would have even said what you said there, that he should be in the serious running for manager of the year? And I totally agree with it. 100% agree with it. But it's crazy what he's done there once he's been given maybe a little bit of like faith and saying, all right, you do what you got to do. And the team's so young that I think you said 1 or 2 transfers, 2 or 3 transfers away, and they're going to be, if they don't blow things up,
yeah,
I think they're going to be very competitive.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that's going to happen either. I really think that they're still cutting dead weight, but you're seeing, I think you're just going to see players looking at a manager who's giving, especially younger players, hungry players, a legit shot to play and a legit shot to shine, and saying, no, I'll figure out how to get the best out of you because I'm showing I'm proving that with what I'm getting from. Look, I was very pro Bukayo Saka, ESR before they actually became legit first teamers. I was not expecting this level of performance from either of them this soon. I'm very, very surprised. And I think that you have to give a lot of that to Arteta. You do. But
I think, and just to put a bow on this, I think the whole thing with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was massive.
Yeah.
Because Aubameyang no longer plays for that club, which means that Arteta was able to put his stamp on the team and say, you will play, you will do what I want you to do. You will adhere to my standards of play. You will adhere to my rules for performance, being on time. And if you don't, you will leave. And look, I know that Aubameyang's had a good time over in Barca, and that may have been where he wanted to go in the first place, right? But the fact of the matter is, when it comes to Arsenal, Arteta won. And that is huge. That tells every other player on that squad right now, he's the boss.
It's his team now.
Yeah.
It's his team now.
It's his team now. We are going to do what he wants. We're going to do how he wants. And, if you don't want to, find a job. And I don't think that it's mistaken to say that the upturn in form is slightly correlated to the end of that saga. Because once that saga ended and Arteta came out the quote-unquote victor from an Arsenal standpoint, everybody bought in. They said, all right, we're going to do what the boss wants us to, because he really is the boss. And we're going to move on. And they've been better team for it.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
That's the way unfortunately, that's not how professional sports is most of the time, but that's how it should be.
Yeah, just get that physio department together. We can't have Tierney and Tomiyasu out all the time. We've waited for Tomiyasu to come back for 3 weeks, man. Come on. We need him. We need him bad. He's our best defender.
All right, Larry, most important question of all the important questions that I'm going to ask you tonight. How was vacation?
It was needed, man. It's like the answer I've been giving people whenever they ask. It was needed. Weather was perfect. The drinks were great. The food was an all-inclusive, so you do what you got to do with the food, but it was good.
Good enough. It's good enough.
We met some great people there. We became good friends. So it was basically like a party of 10 from, for the last 5 days. It was a good time.
All right. Glad to hear it. City have an interesting run coming up. Real Madrid in the Champions League, and then the must-win games in the Premier League. The season's not over by a long shot, despite what happened in the FA Cup semifinals. The season, the trophies, they're still there for the taking. How do they get there?
They just have to play. Real Madrid's legit. We all know that. They're not just taking over a weaker La Liga right now. They are a legit team. Benzema is just on another planet right now. It's just they need to play their game and they need to finish, which is I've been saying that for 5 years. If they can get a half of a performance out of Jesus like he had in the last game, granted it's against Watford, I get that, but it was just they finished opportunities against and it's going to be it's going to be tough. Things have to go their way. Could I see them losing? 100%. I'm not even confident that they're going to win. I think that they have what it takes to win. It wouldn't be an upset if they win, but at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if it's a 1-0 game, 2-1 game, and then, you know, City wins it, and then Real wins 2-0 whenever they go back home. You know, like they're a tough team. Not having Cancelo in the first leg is a major blow, just from his offensive capabilities. But they have to play clinical. They have to finish clinical, and they just need to be smart out of the back.
Karim Benzema is just destroying teams. Pep knows him. Pep knows his tendencies. Pep knows everything about him. Are we going to see good Pep? I kind of know how to stop him, and I'm just going to let my defenders know what they need to do. Or are we going to see Pep that gets in his own way, who's going to overthink and come up with a complicated scheme to try and stop Karim Benzema that ultimately allows Carlo Ancelotti to just get the better of him?
No, I think he kind of stays per Pep as the way he's gone. I think he'll be very, very similar to what he does with Liverpool. You know, he tries to keep the speed in the back where he can. I think this is the knock on Pep. We've talked many a times, but if Benzema starts beating him, he's probably not going to change, you know, and Benzema will continue to beat him. Having Diaz back, if hopefully he can be at 100%, is a huge boost to their back, especially considering Stones is a little banged up right now. They need to get Walker back. But Benzema always finds a way, man. Everyone knows who he is, but he's still, you know, he's just one of those players. Everybody knows who Lewandowski is. He still scores 50 goals a season. You know, everybody knows who these guys are. They still find ways. They just need to play smart. I don't think Pep's going to overthink things. You know, he'll have his Champions League squad in, I believe, you know, but he'll make his subs at 60 minutes when he needs to.
The running in the league for City on paper is not that daunting. The issue becomes, and a lot of times they become the chase, not the chasers. Home to Newcastle.
Not an easy.
Away to Leeds, home to Newcastle, away to West Ham, and home to Villa.
Nobody wants to play Newcastle right now.
Nobody wants to play Newcastle right now. And, you know, Leeds and Elan Road can be awkward, right? But when you look at Liverpool, and we'll talk to Professor Matt in a little bit, Liverpool still have Spurs. They still have some tough games to play.
I think they still have Newcastle as well.
Yeah. Honest opinion, can he get it done?
Can he? Absolutely. You know my motto. I'm never too you know, confident in it. I'm never.
All right, let me rephrase the question. What does he need to do to get these last 4 wins that he needs to see out this Premier League winning side?
He needs to score early. He needs to just cut out the mistake goals, you know, the late turnovers, you know, or the turnovers back in their own end. He just needs to keep them focused, you know, and they're an experienced squad. Like, this is not new to them. They should know what is at stake. And it's just, when they score early, the floodgates open. They just have the confidence that you can just see them just relax, and they just need to be able to score early is really what it is. But again, all these games, that's what the Premier League is. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they drop points at all. I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool drops points, even for as well as they're playing. You know, it's just the runs that both of these teams are on, especially Liverpool, they're just due. But if they don't drop them, you know, it's like you wouldn't be surprised either, because they are the superior team.
What do you want more, Champions League or Premier League?
Oh, a Champions League. Champions
What are you
League.
What are you more likely to get? Champions League or Premier League?
I think they're more likely to get the Premier League than the Champions League, just because of the coming out of Real. It all comes down to the injuries as well. I mean, we saw the beating that City took against Madrid. It's going to be tough.
I think that was a transformative performance for them because they stood up to the physicality, the downright bully. And Rob and I talked about this. It was the first time that Pep's side came out as the sympathetic victim. They stood up. They did what they needed to. Diego Simeone's side looked like the brutes, the bullies, the anti-football players. It's very weird to sit here and say Man City were the antagonists or the protagonists in this battle where Diego Simeone, who's always been the anti-hero and the sympathetic antagonist, lost. I think that's going to be a transformative moment for them. They stood up, they took that, and they came out victorious.
You gotta love about sports though, because if Atletico Madrid ended up scoring there and winning, Simeone would have been an absolute genius in the bullying, and it's just but two different stories written could be changed within 10 minutes.
You're a Steelers fan. If the ball doesn't bounce to Franco Harris,
well, didn't it bounce? Let's get that straight.
If the ball does, let's be real. If the ball doesn't bounce to Franco Harris, it's a completely different story.
You're right.
Yeah, I think, but sometimes you need those.
Oh,
absolutely. All right, my man. Good to see you. Enjoy your vacation. We'll get back with you. We're gonna bring on our good friend Professor Matt and talk a little bit about the other side of this. Liverpool. How's it going, my friend? You're on mute.
Doing well, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing good, my friend. How are you? You guys find yourself in a weird position where, despite being probably one of the hottest teams in all of Europe, in a lot of respects, for some of the stuff, you're the chasers, not the chasees.
Yeah, I mean, still being alive in 4 competitions, being on this run that we've been on, and being in the form that we're in. There's no easy out. And it's literally focus. Every match essentially is a must win at this point. Be it the FA Cup final, obviously the Champions League, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and the 5 remaining Premier League matches. Outside of maybe Southampton, none of which are particularly easy. No one wants to play Newcastle right now. Villa away is tricky. And Spurs in 2 weeks, I mean, I don't know. Do we get Dr. Jekyll Spurs or do we get Mr. Hyde Spurs? Because Dr. Jekyll Spurs, they're probably the 4th best team in the league.
And again, in talking to Larry, the Real Madrid City game is going to have the cachet, right? You've got City, and this is where I'm going to talk to you about, like, from the historical perspective, all that stuff that you and I like to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Real Madrid, the established Franco's team, won it more times than anybody else. The original winners and the current champs versus City, the nouveau riche. Dynamics of class and socioeconomics. Yeah, that one's the one to watch, and then Liverpool and Villarreal. From a footballing perspective, I can see watching Liverpool and Villarreal. Look, Rob will tell you from a Bayern perspective about playing Villarreal. I'll tell you from a Manchester United perspective about playing Villarreal.
I said that.
Like the yellow submarine in Unai Emery, when he's in his element, he has the ability to bleep some things up for you.
Oh yeah.
How concerned are you?
I think the fact that the first leg is in Anfield is incredibly helpful. As you already said, we are dealing with Unai Emery. We are dealing with Unai Emery in Europe, which is different from Unai Emery in the league. We know this. And he actually has a pretty decent record against club-managed sides. If you look historically, he got us in Europe too, club's first season in that Europa League final. They have some good players. Chukwueze, Pau Torres, I've been a huge fan of for a long time. Danjuma. They also, and I was looking over their squad,
Oh, did we just lose Matt entirely? Oh,
nope, he just froze up. He's back.
Okay.
He's back. Okay, continue what you were saying.
Yeah, I was looking at their squad the other day. My internet connection is unstable. Okay. The other day, there's also some weird dead weight. The likes of Lo Celso, Serge Aurier, our boy Moreno, etc. So I'm fairly confident we can, take care of business at home at Anfield in the first leg. The away leg, who knows? I'm not looking at this, as if it's an easy draw by any means.
So, we're discussing Villarreal, and I do have a soft spot for Unai. I mean, I really think that his time at Arsenal was primarily due to his lack of language. I don't want to say lack of language skills. His accent was just so heavy because he actually speaks English perfectly fine. It was just a difficulty in communicating. I always thought he was a good manager. And if you looked at his time, I think that had he had a little bit better communication with his team, he probably would still be there because he's proven that he can win, especially at the level that Arsenal currently is. But if they were to put a legit challenge and make things nervy for Liverpool, I don't see that. What do you see coming down the pipe with that?
Yeah, I think, like I said, the first leg being in Anfield, I think, is key because I can't see Villarreal walking away on Wednesday, really with anything, and it's going to be catch up in Spain. I don't think it's going to be per se easy. Like I said, they have quality players there. But you also look up and down the squad and compare them with Liverpool's. This is the deepest squad Klopp's had during his tenure. And again, you look at Villarreal's squad depth, and it's like some of the dead weight from those Arsenal teams are there. A lot of ex-Spurs guys. Like I did not know Aurier was there.
Yeah, I didn't either.
What I will say though, they're 7th right now in La Liga, which means this is legit all they're playing for. And that makes it nervy. But realistically, I can't foresee us not.
Yeah. I think I mean, don't quote me this, but I think that out of all the teams that are still alive in Europa League and in Champions League, they are the lowest ranked side for their respective domestic league. So we're looking at a Premier League race that's similar to what we saw. Was it last year, maybe 2 years ago, where you're seeing it looks like it's going to be Liverpool and Man City scoring 99 and 100 points again. How do you see? I mean, drawing with Man City was only good for Man City. How do we see? Do you see Man City potentially dropping some points for Liverpool to be able to squeak it and try to take the league title? Because as you said earlier, they're alive in 4 competitions. So I mean, they're going to walk away with a lot of silverware this year. And is the league title really that important?
I do, but I also see us potentially dropping points too, because you look at because we still have a match in hand from the FA semifinals. We have Newcastle at home this week. And again, the fact that it's in Anfield, I think helps. But no one wants to play Newcastle right now.
No one wants to play them. No. They're actually, if you look at the standings of the Premier League since the 2022 calendar year, they're ranked 4th.
Yeah.
And they won 4 of their last 5. So they're actually the hottest team in the Premier League right now. And and no one's, especially an Eddie Howe coach team, who that's a proven manager who knows. Don't forget, Bournemouth finished 9th. Yep. And he had some quality squads, but he also got a lot out of players who you've seen go elsewhere and not nearly perform as well as they did for Bournemouth. So he's a damn good manager.
He has always gotten more from less wherever he's been.
Yeah.
Spurs in 2 weeks. Again, do we get Dr. Jekyll Spurs? Do we get Mr. Hyde Spurs? Because if we get Dr. Jekyll Spurs, arguably they're the 4th best team in the league, maybe the 3rd with the way Chelsea's playing at the moment. The match in hand against Villa, not easy. And
Villa, they look bad right now, though. They look bad.
but it's also
stop giving Gerrard props. He doesn't deserve them yet.
And then Southampton and Wolves, and the Newcastle and the Spurs match are the 2 that most concern me.
Yeah.
But I could see City dropping points, but I could also see us still dropping points. Okay. I have a really queasy feeling that this is going to play out just like 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the last match of the season, and someone's going to be really pissed off because they lost the league by a point.
Yeah.
But considering the fact we're still alive and everything we can be alive in, hey, losing the league, finishing 2nd with 1 point, and you still get a trophy, an additional trophy or 2 or 3. That's not a terrible consolation prize.
Yeah. Do you see Liverpool taking the FA Cup as well?
I do. As much as I'm tired of, seeing Chelsea, I think we're actually playing them at the right time.
Agreed.
Things are starting to discombobulate a little bit, and not really. I'm sure Chelsea Mike can speak more about this. It's not really so much Tuchel's fault. It's the structural issues going on with the club at the moment. They know their best defenders on the way out. Despite the fact that he's looked decent the last couple of weeks, Timo Werner still can't score goals. Lukaku's useless.
Yeah, he's already wants to go back to Italy.
And I have no idea what's wrong with Conte, but he looks bad.
I think he's still hurt.
Yeah,
I think Conte often comes back too early because he's just that kind of guy, and especially for a squad that is going through some turmoil right now that's off the field. I could just see him saying, I have to play for my team. I have to play for my team. And he's got to be worn down. And I just don't think, I mean, if Chelsea had nothing left to play for this season, they really should just shut him down and let him heal, because he's only 30. I think he's like 30 on the dot. I don't think he ever got truly healthy this year, because Conte at 85%, I would take. I don't think he's at 85%.
I don't think either. And I agree with you. He's a guy who's played a lot of games.
Yeah.
And he plays every game that he's physically capable.
Mm-hmm. Not fit for, what he's capable of, which are 2 very different things. Absolutely.
Again,
Mhm.
I like the name, not Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
All right, and there he is. Chelsea Mike, how goes it this evening?
Well, I mean, I'm like Beetlejuice. You start talking trash on my team, and I just show up.
Yeah.
We're not trashing your
What's-
team, man. We're more trashing the fact that your team's going through something that I don't think any other team could possibly understand what that is
The other
in the
part
last
is
20 years.
The other part is
Well,
you're
we
playing
are still
Man
for
United.
sale. Yeah.
You're also playing Man United on Thursday, and that will solve a whole lot of problems.
Look, I don't know what I honestly I don't really know what kind of issues you want to talk about. Yes, okay. They almost have two forward lines. It's like hockey, right? They've got their Timo Werner line, and then they've got their Havertz line. They've got the fast line, and they've got the big line. It's
the question is, which one are they going to use, and which one works?
Well, right now, I think that their best front three is it probably has Havertz in it, and it definitely does not have Lukaku. Which, I mean, if the idea of your team being in disarray is your enormous signing isn't panning out, well, I've been a fan of Chelsea for 20 years, so that's just kind of, we're usually like 1 out of 3 on our signings. See Timo Werner last year, I mean, yeah, Lukaku hasn't wound up being the kind of player that really seems to work in Tuchel's offense. But to me, if I'm playing against Man U tomorrow, knowing we've got to turn around, we have another game against Everton on the weekend. I'm rewarding Chris for going out there, putting in a good shift, scoring the winning goal. He should start. Mount had a great game in Havertz. That's who I want leading the line on Thursday. One of those guys puts in a bad performance, and in Pop Ziyech or maybe Lukaku. It's a bevy of options. We're third place in the league. We're not in disarray. It's provided we actually do sell to another owner who's willing to invest as significantly in the team as most major club owners are. But other than that, we're getting by, doing what we have to do. I still like us to beat Liverpool in the FA Cup final.
Yeah, I figured you would.
I'm a little biased.
Well, I got some time on the schedule, and I'll invite Matt and Rob instead to be a part of this. We got to talk about the bottom end of that table, and the big story in the Premier League right now is Everton off strength of their defeat in the Merseyside derby, dropping down into the relegation zone. They now sit in 7th place, 2 points behind Burnley, but with a game in hand, but with a much trickier schedule coming up than any of their relegation rivals. Gentlemen, Everton haven't been relegated since World War II. This would arguably, and we've seen some big teams go down, but this would arguably be the biggest relegation that we have seen in the Premier League. This is not, Newcastle was a big team when they went down. West Ham has gone down multiple times.
So is Newcastle.
And Newcastle.
Yeah.
And they're all big teams. But none of them had the longevity that Everton did. None of them had that staying power, the fact that you had not been relegated since, in England, they judge everything before the war. I wish London Sean were on tonight to remind me they haven't been relegated since before the war.
So that'll be only Arsenal, which was scary a little bit earlier this season.
All right, so the first question is this the biggest potential relegation that we have seen from the first division? I'm not going to go Premier League, like that's the early 90s, but since World War II in the Premier League, given where we're at now, what do you think, Mike?
I mean, first of all, I think there's two questions here. The first question is, are Everton going to get relegated? I don't think so, but I'll leave that. But would Everton leaving the Premier League be the biggest relegation that we've seen in probably the entire Premier League era? Yes, I do think it would be. First of all, Everton were a team that was not too long ago competing for Europe. When it was the big four in England and not the big six, Everton were regularly behind there as like the fifth or sixth team. They were always in the mix for Europe. They have the biggest fan base.
That's been as recent as 10 years ago too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, and when you look around and look at the kind of talent they have, the amount they're spending, yes, it would be the biggest team to go down that we've ever seen. And what they're doing is supposed to ensure against that, and it just hasn't. And that's what's interesting about football.
Well, Farouk Moshiri has bought poorly. He has assembled a squad, and he's chopped and changed it, and that's why they find themselves in the situation that they're in.
Oh, I think it would be a wholly good thing for their organization as a whole to go down.
Relegation is never a good thing for anybody.
Well, I hear that.
Look at Sunderland.
Well, I'm going to counter argue with Fulham. Fulham this year, they did go down. They're renovating their grounds. They spent some money going down, and they did it in the right way, and they're coming back up. So, I mean, I think
Fulham's been a yo-yo club for 5 or 6 years. Everton are not designed to be a yo-yo club like Fulham are.
Well, but I think that there's a lot more backstops there when you have the financial backing that they do to be able to pop right back up. I don't see them going the way of Oldham Athletic, the first Premier League club relegated out of the league this week. I'm sure Matt's over there dreaming of, slamming the coffin lids on Everton forever. But no, look, I think they go down, they get out of a lot of contracts that I think they'd want to separate from anyway. And, you go back in and retool. They definitely need to retool. They're not losing that financial backing. But you can only sustain that for like 1 or 2 years before you really have to become a lower league side. And that is when teams run into trouble.
All right, Rob, how big would Everton be going down big?
Since I'm the Bundesliga guy, I think it would be almost the same as if when Schalke got relegated.
And we don't know if they're coming back this year.
We don't know if they're coming back. There's no guarantee. I think the good thing with Everton, and oh, by the way, I do think they get relegated. On their remaining schedule, I only see a maximum of 4 points, and that's it. I think maybe they beat Watford, and maybe they draw against Brentford, and that's it. I think they lose Chelsea, Leicester, Palace, and Arsenal. round it out. But you know, Mike made a good point. They're gonna get out of a lot of bad contracts, number one. Rightfully so. They're still gonna get their EPL check, you know, from the TV rights. They're gonna use that. They do have an owner that's gonna pour money to the club. And look, Everton, sometimes you got to fall before you can get back up again. And so there's going to be a manager potentially available, you know, the prodigal son, also known as Wayne Rooney, potentially coming back to take over for Lampard once Everton get relegated. And he, you know, it's going to be so much goodwill with the club. He's going to have a young squad to work with. They're going to listen to Wayne Rooney. He's going to be able to coach this team. And I think they have an excellent shot to get back. If they don't get back right away, that's okay, because you know what? Maybe they could spend some time gelling the squad again, and then the next season they can really make a good effort to go back up and potentially stay there. You know, it's going to be a good story for Everton. It's you know, and actually, you know, I was thinking about it this week. The best person who made out at from Everton this season is Carlo Ancelotti. Carlo Ancelotti left, and now he's in the Champions League semifinal. Can you believe this? Like, you know, so it's crazy. You know, but you know, and I know Matt can stand Everton, but there will be no Merseyside derby without Everton. I mean, and I think Liverpool fans and also Premier League fans and neutrals like to see the Merseyside derby. It's one of the big ones in the club game, and it's almost like, you know, it's like you know, only I can punch you because you're my brother, but nobody else can mess with you, and if you're gone, I miss you. You know, so it's going to be a tough story for Everton, but I think it'd be good for them to go down and reset the ship a little bit.
All right, before I get to Matt, for the first time that I checked on all season, 538 in their predictions is giving Everton a better than 50% chance of going down. You can say what you want about 538's predictions, but by this point in time, they have enough input and their models that they start to be very, very correct. They give them a 55% chance. I'll knock 10 off of that just because it's sport, but 45%, man, that's huge. Matt, you're closest to this. This is the Merseyside derby. Are Everton going to go down, and what would the loss of the Merseyside derby do for Liverpool?
Going back to what Rob said, I don't think I could put it any better. First of all, I actually agree with Mike. I have a strange feeling they aren't going down. Call me crazy, but I don't necessarily trust Burnley either. It would be huge. It would be huge if they went down. And it would be a loss for us because in some deep ways, I mean, there's the rivalry with United. There's this new rivalry that's been built with City. There's sort of a rivalry now with Chelsea, at least, you know, over the last 15, 20 years. But they still are our closest rivals, and it would be a net loss. In terms of whether relegation would be good or bad for Chelsea, this is where I think me and Mike sort of diverge. Being a fan of the Russian game, the only thing similar was Dynamo Moscow, which was one of 3 Soviet clubs that had never gotten relegated until all of a sudden in 2017 they did. And the situation and the circumstances are eerily similar. It was a club with a lot of money, but a club that did not spend money intelligently, and was a sort of revolving door of managers. they did go back up the following season, but they did that, and they followed along with that by making drastic cultural and structural changes with the club itself. My question for Everton is, if they go down, are they willing? Yes, because contracts will expire. Yes, you'll still have money, but who's to say you won't spend money fugazily again, right? I've yet to see any visual evidence that they won't. So I don't know. I think they stay up, just barely. Them going down could be a blessing, but I'm not necessarily certain it will be. I don't think they'll be out of the Premier League for a prolonged period of time, but they have to start changing. And they can just look at us across town and see, okay, this is how you do this. That's all I'll say.
All right, Stead, what do you think?
I think it will be I think it's going to be comparable to Newcastle and West Ham, simply because Everton hasn't played to that level in quite a. I mean, yes, it's been relatively recently, but don't forget, Villa went down. Villa finished 5th not that long ago as well. Same thing with Newcastle. Newcastle's actually competed to win Premier League titles in the since they're in the, and Premier League hasn't been around very long. And look at how yes, Newcastle's kind of bounced back and forth, but you're looking at a club of Everton stature where if they were to go down, I don't see it as being such a horrible thing. I think that they'll probably run through the championship relatively easily and be right back up without the dead weight that's currently on that squad. I can think of a lot of I think they're probably still playing Theo Walcott. So there's various positive aspects to going down in the respect of being able to kind of start fresh, because I just don't think there's going to be much of a challenge in championship. That being said, I think if Everton can finish 17th, then they should run around and be very, very, very happy and try to do everything they can to free up space to the club to hopefully, and if that's bringing in a Wayne Rooney, then bring in Wayne Rooney. But I don't see it as quite such a horrible thing, because Everton hasn't been. I mean, we were talking about Sheffield a couple of years ago and how Sheffield was, they came up, they finished 8th, and they almost qualified for Europe if it wasn't for the handball with Aston Villa, with that whole craziness that was happening. And then a year later, I made that wacky prediction where I was like, hey, Sheffield's going to go down this year. I had no idea. And what happened? Sheffield went down. So,
they're not Sheffield.
I'm not saying they are, but what I am saying is it's not difficult for clubs to finish consistently in the middle of the pack to go down. That's not that hard to do, and we've discussed that on this show. It's not that out of the realm. And just seeing where Everton's been the last couple of years, I don't think it's quite that surprising. I think the only thing that's surprising about it is simply that the squad appears to have more talent than any other squad that's gone down. But that's just akin to what's going on this year with the squad, not so much the club's history in a sense of why they're going down at this time. I think what's happening actually with League Two with Oldham is actually worse than what's going on with Everton. I do.
All right, so we're gonna get there in just a second. I'm gonna give the final word before Mike tells me why Everton aren't going to be relegated. I think that Everton's potential relegation speaks to a lot of our clubs where we feel we're safe in the United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs, City, Liverpool realm, right? And to a certain extent, some of us are more safe than others. But, them going down starts to open that door. Well, if Everton can go down, Arsenal could. United could. Right now, it doesn't look like it, but City, Chelsea, Liverpool, a couple of years of bad spending could go down. That's what the big fear with this is. But Mike, you're going to tell me why Everton aren't going to be relegated, and tell me what's going on in League One.
Right. Well, let me tell you this: why Everton aren't going to be relegated. If you look at them and you look at Burnley, you would give Burnley the advantage. But I am telling you, look at Leeds. Everton have a game in hand advantage over Leeds. Leeds' schedule is City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Brighton, Brentford. And Brentford puts on a good game. And those are all really good teams. To me, there is the Brighton line. That's 38 points. The path to the 38 points, the easiest is the team that's going to stay up. And Everton's path to 38 is way clearer than Leeds is. Leeds, I could see getting absolutely 0 points out of their last 5 games, although even just 1 or 2 might not be enough to stay up. I think Leeds is the backstop to Everton, not Burnley, and you have to watch Leeds very intently because they could keep Everton up.
That was one that I hadn't necessarily considered.
Burnley just exhausted all the points they're getting for the rest of the year. I'm sorry. I have no faith in
No,
that.
Burnley has none. Burnley has some winnable games coming up, and I hate that they fire Sean Dyche.
I do too. That was wrong. It's just flat out wrong. He deserves better than that.
He deserved a lot better than that. And I'll say this any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Sean Dyche deserved a lot better.
Yes, he's a good manager. He's a good manager who got a lot out of that club. And
he got more out of that club than
Burnley's a great place to go either.
They fired him for a new manager bounce. And the problem is they've actually got it. They've actually got it the last couple of weeks. And their schedule is discernibly more easy than Leeds or Everton. That's why
Villa showing up twice in your last 5 games.
That's why when Mike says Leeds is the backstop to Everton getting relegated, he's not wrong. Like, I can see that. The only caveat that I have to Leeds getting relegated is Leeds are in that position where they have points on the board. They have 5 on Everton right now. So Everton have to pick up 2 full games on them, which, again, given Leeds' schedule, is possible. But it requires Everton to do something that they haven't necessarily done a whole lot of, which is win games when they're not playing Man United. So, yeah, Mike, I'm going to agree with you. I think strangely, I think this comes down to Leeds and Everton. And those are 2 big name clubs. If you started watching the Premier League after 2005, you probably don't realize how much of a big team Leeds actually is.
Yeah, I mean, they're huge. They're historical. They've won the league. They're, you know, they had a dominant decade in the 70s and 80s. You know, they're the guy. Listen, if you're sitting in the NBC Sports promotion office or the Premier League office, picking which one you want to go down, it's Burnley. But you want clearly Burnley. All right, Mike, give us the other stuff. Stead wanted to get into Oldham and some other stuff in League One real quick. So I will
just real quick, but I do want to say this, Mike. I'm a loyal listener of your shorts, a very loyal listener. So please, expand on what you're going to say here, because I know we got to wrap this up in a couple minutes.
Yeah, we're going to have a whole. Oldham was a terrible scene. There was a pitch invasion. The game never got finished. Mm-hmm. I'll go deeply into that in our shorts, our Too Many Guys shorts. which air on the same places that you download our podcast or watch us on YouTube. They're all here on our channel. I'm always promoting the stuff, but let's look at League One, right? I want to put this out here right now because this is the last week of League One. And many of the teams have already played their 45th, which is their next to final game. Looking at the top of the league right now, what you have is Wigan on top. Wigan, the old FA Cup champions, looking like they're going to go back to the championship. They need 1 point out of either of their last 2 games.
They've only gotten
to go back up
4 games. So yeah, they're crawling across the finish line, but they can still win it.
Yes. Rotherham, on the other hand, they have 2 games left. They're tied with MK Dons on points, but they're ahead on goal differential. They actually have some rather difficult games. Although they won this weekend, and I wasn't convinced they were going to. So watch out for that. MK Dons leads the playoff pack here, but you've got Sunderland, Plymouth Argyle, and Wickham all on 80. That's 4, 5, and 6. That's the bottom of your playoff. Right behind them is Sheffield Wednesday with 79 and a game in hand. And Sheffield Wednesday's game in hand tomorrow is against Fleetwood. It's a big game for both sides. If we flip over to the bottom of the table, if Fleetwood get any points, Fleetwood are on the last safe spot in League One, right? So everyone below them is relegated. They are level on points with Gillingham, although their goal differential is way better. If they win tomorrow, they actually take themselves, they make themselves safe, essentially, just on goal differential. But they put Morecambe and put their final game under the microscope. So you've got Sheffield Wednesday and Fleetwood tomorrow. They both need points, and Sunderland Rotherham. Again,
That's
both of those
game.
Teams in the playoff mix.
It's a big game. Bigger for Sunderland. Bigger for Sunderland.
Yeah, and we love Sunderland here. We know half their fans. So we in America are biased, but I encountered someone who went to a game, and that might be in our shorts too. We might talk to someone who was at the Stadium of Light on Saturday. I just want to go down to the bottom. All 4 of the potentially relegated sides are in 45, so they're on their last game. Doncaster is essentially relegated because of their goal differential. AFC Wimbledon, who have never been relegated at all, need Fleetwood to get no points tomorrow, or they are relegated. And then Gillingham, Fleetwood, Morecambe. If Fleetwood don't get points, or if they do, there's going to be an up and down in that. So be watching those 3 teams: Morecambe, Fleetwood, Gillingham. 2 of them will stay, 1 will leave, and it's all going to come down to Championship Saturday in League One.
All right, if we go down to League Two, Forest Green are leading. I don't understand how. Apparently, that is green energy powered. But more importantly, a pod favorite club, Exeter City, Sean's club, are looking at direct promotion. Finally, they figured it out. We're not going to go to the playoffs. We're just going to win promotion. They've got 4 points and a game in hand on Northampton Town, and it looks like they're going up.
Yeah. Their championship Saturday is next weekend, so they still got another weekend to play. So I'd like to talk about League Two a little bit more next week. I know we've kind of League One's kind of been the star, I think, this year of the lower league report, simply because League One has been the most exciting league. When you look at teams that were in the top 4 just a couple of months ago, and they're sitting 15th and 16th, it shows you the parity in that league. I would love to to touch on League Two a little bit more, because I'd love to get Sean back on, because we got it. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Exeter and their possible automatic promotion. That would be amazing.
We will. Well, we got to figure out how to get London Sean back on. I don't
even
know
if we need to, set up a link and just record him earlier and then just throw it up. I think we got to take care of that. Yeah, we got to get on.
And Mike, Rob, Matt, Coach Matt, y'all want to be involved? We'll do a little side show on MLS later. Rob and I will be back on later this week to do a European recap, and Mike will be doing his regular lower league diatribe later on this week. But man, that one.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of promotions and a bunch of relegations, so a lot of teams are going to get their in memoriams and their triumphs. It's a lot of fun. Check it out.
All right. Look, that went fast. And we had the full boat. So I got to wrap this up, and now I got to get out of here. I would kindly like to thank Bayern Rob, Celtic Cam, Larry the insurance guy, Professor Matt, and Chelsea Mike, all for coming on and joining us to do what they do every week, telling us everything that they know. And of course, my partner in crime, producer Stead, for making sure everything runs on time and chiming in on time, as he always does, with that good soccer knowledge, playing foil to me, who knows absolutely nothing. We have continued to deliver on our promise of actually delivering nothing of worth to you for your soccer knowledge and continuing to suck. We did all right this week. We will continue to do to try and improve next week. So for the cast of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, Byron Rob, Celtic Cam, Chelsea Mike, Professor Matt, Larry the insurance guy, and producer Stead. I hope I didn't miss anybody.
Maybe.
Nah.
We're good.
I'm Mike. Yep. This has been Too Many Soccer Guys show. We suck and we know we do. Have a good week.